Hello and good morning. Composition 2. It's another sunny but cool Thursday morning. Lots of things to talk about today because today is week 13, I believe. We have had holidays on the Tuesday, but none on the Thursday, so we're still on pace to finish before the makeup week. I know I've still gotten a couple messages from students. If you are in, listen carefully, because I said this already. If you are in section 00, you did the makeup marking birthdays assignment, okay? So there was no assignment for you last week, right? If you were in section 3 or 4, then you did have an assignment. So 2 classes did another assignment. They did page 98 instead. So there's one class, if you are in the class that did the marking birthdays assignment, your assignments were done for the semester. If you're in the other 2, then there was an assignment to do on page 98, which I believe everybody's done. So a couple students that sent me emails about doing page 98. If you were in that class that did the marking birthdays thing, it's fine, okay? What's going on? Okay, now, next thing we need to talk about, second response papers due this week, week 13. So you should be handing those in. I've already talked about that enough, so good luck on that. And I want to just let you know that the schedule for our exams is going to be the week of December 13th. So if you're in a Tuesday class, that means your exam will be on December 14th. And if you're in the Thursday composition class, that's December 16th, okay? We will finish a week before that because next week is week 14 and we will be done, right? It's because we never took any holidays. So there's gonna be a sort of a 1 week gap for all of you to study or work on other stuff from your other classes, okay? No big deal, but it's probably better for you anyway to get more time to study for other exams and to prepare for this one. So that's the plan. I submitted the exam schedule. It just has to be approved. So I haven't posted it yet. But when the English department says it's okay, December 14th, Tuesday, December 14th, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, and December 16th, Thursday at 4. So you have to come to the English department in the Inmun Day on your day at your time, okay? The exam will be an hour and a half long. And next week is exam review. This is our last content lecture, okay? So I'm gonna explain to you about the second half of this unit called Nature Attacks. We talked about lightning last time. And today we're going to talk about natural disasters and basically about nature in general. So the first thing I want to talk about is, this is kind of related to the way you can approach writing about an individual, right? Sometimes an individual, you make judgments about them, right? I've been trying to emphasize to you to try and not frame your statements as opinions, okay? So let me give you a couple examples here from the homework. So I'm just gonna use some students' examples, right? So this is from page 98. So the class that did the marking birthdays class, you didn't have to do this for homework, but you have the same textbook so you can follow along. Page 98 here. Some people did everything. I said you only have to do the discussion and critical thinking. Please listen to the instructions. Some people did more homework than they had to, which is okay, but unnecessary. So all of these, I would say all of these students had good answers or good enough, but but there are always things to improve. So I'm going to point them out. So the first discussion question is on page 98, would you like to be an explorer? Why why not? Well, that's a very personal question, right? I would not like to be an explorer because people who take risks a lot, because I am a timid person. If I was an explorer, I would be stressed a lot because of tiny things such as condition, anomaly, climate, diet, and so on. So I want to have a courage, but I don't want to be an explorer. Okay, they talk about their characteristics and how it doesn't match and how the situation would cause stress and what causes stress. That's pretty good. The grammar problems, but otherwise pretty good. If you could go anywhere in the world, what place would you go? That's a personal question too. So you would say, I would like to explore a cave. When I was an elementary school student, I was interested in a comic book, Surviving in a Cave. It was attractive to me. The things like stalactites or bats made me excited. So I would like to explore a cave. Simple, could be more detailed, but that is satisfactory. And it is a personal answer, so that's fine. Question number 3. Fiennes uses his expeditions to raise money for charity. What does this tell us about Fiennes? What charity would you like to help? Why? Okay, you don't have to say it from a personal perspective here, right? Instead of saying, I think Fiennes, you say, Fiennes is a charitable, it's not, I think Fiennes was a charitable person. This is a fact, right? He either is or is not. Either he's giving money or he's not. And if you believe National Geographic, which I do, they've reported that he does give money. He donates the money to charities. So you don't have to say, I think he was. You say, Fiennes was a charitable person. Donating is wonderful by itself. I think it's cooler to use his exploration for charity. Like Fiennes, I want to help people in need. In this world, we need to help each other. I think it's meaningful to be a leader of charity. Fine. Cool is a little bit informal. One thing we haven't talked about this semester is levels of language. That's something that you say when you're talking casually. It's not something that you write in an exam, okay? It's the same thing in Korean. You text moshita. You don't write that on your suno. You know what I mean? So attractive was a good word. Impressive is a good word. Formal words are preferable than saying something like, I think it's awesome that he gives money to everybody. He's the coolest guy I know. Now I'm talking in an informal way. That's not writing. That's not academic writing. Okay? Anyway, generally this student, those answers are fine, but they can be improved. They can be more formal. The grammar can be better. You can make them more impersonal so that they're less biased and the statements and arguments, then the support seem stronger. That's what you need to do, especially in the critical thinking. When you're doing critical thinking, it's important not to look at things from I, okay? And the fundamental problem there is thinking about yourself and looking into yourself. Like in some situations, of course, you want to know yourself better. You want to understand yourself, of course. Psychology, happiness, right? Improving yourself. But when you're talking about something, an important issue, a global issue, a crisis, a problem, right? A situation at your work. When you say something like, I think we should do this, you're using the weight of your own reputation and you're putting it from your own perspective. If you want to suggest something, you say, how about, should we consider this option? You don't say, I think we should do this, because you're putting the suggestion from yourself, right? And it's weak. If you want to suggest something, then you say the suggestion directly. That's much better, right? Unless you want, you want to use your authority, right? If a group has a bunch of different ideas and you're the leader, or you're the oldest one, or you're the most experienced one, and you say, I think we should do this, other people are going to say, well, the leader said, so we're going to follow what he said. But that's not the case when you're writing. None of us are the leader, right? We are the presenters. When you're writing, you're presenting to your audience. None of us are Shakespeare or Einstein or Isaac Newton or Thomas Edison or Barack Obama or whatever. We're not writing things down from a position of authority. So when we write something, it's our job to present things and to convince people as much as possible. Stronger arguments are better, right? It doesn't say at the beginning of the US Constitution, I think all men are created equal. It just says, all men are created equal. Statement. If Thomas Jefferson said, I think, then it's just his opinion. It's not a natural fact. Okay? Let's talk about nature. We're talking about nature in the book here. We're talking about it in the scientific sense, in the meteorologically weather, aspect, right? But nature is basically everything that exists, right? And we distinguish between what is natural and what is not by whether human beings have affected it. It's artificial versus natural, right? It's the classic opposition. So something that comes from nature without interference, without manipulation, without artifice, without intention by human beings is natural. When you put on makeup and well, I shouldn't just say makeup. When you put on clothes and you shave your face and you trim your eyebrows and cut your hair, dye your hair, that's all artificial, right? Excuse me, that was an accident when I put my hand in my pocket. We'll just keep going from there. What I was saying was all of those changes to your appearance, that's artifice, that's superficial. That's one way of looking at it. Robots are not born. Robots are created by us, assembling pieces from nature. Provides all the material. We don't make material out of nothing. Everything comes from our environment, but the way it's put together, if it's not put there, arranged naturally by the forces of nature, then we're talking about artificial stuff, human interference. There's this argument too. In this sense, nature often means genetics, right? How much are you affected by your composition, your genetic makeup, your physical body, and how much are you programmed to do things instinctively? How much is predisposed that you do, and how much is affected by your environment? How much is your parents? How much your education? How much you eat and how much you exercise? All of these things. How much do they contribute to who you are, right? In biology, there's always this tension between how much our environment affects us and how much our genetics affect us. What's the balance? Mostly genetic, mostly environment? I'm not going to answer that question. I don't think anybody knows the exact answer to that, but it's a combination of both. What exactly the balance is sort of depends on what you're talking about too. Like how tall you are, right? How tall you are is certainly a genetic thing. If you have lots of tall people in your family, you are going to be taller. But what about the last few generations of Japanese and Koreans who are, 10 centimeters taller than their parents? You think that's genetic? Think that Koreans suddenly grew on average? All the Korean guys are as tall as me, and my Changenarun is 10 centimeters shorter than me? Everybody the previous generation is shorter than me, and everybody in all the Korean guys at Chungnam are the same height as me or taller. Is that genetics? I don't think it can be. It must be that, the environment in Korea has improved, and that Koreans grow up in a healthier environment, and so they are taller than they used to be. This is clearly, you know, based on genetics, but modified by environment, right? So, you know, you go back to the Middle Ages and people are this tall, and then the Industrial Revolution, they get shorter because the environment is horrible, the air quality is bad, the food quality is bad, and then it comes back up and then it rises. At least I'm talking about English people anyway. The medieval people were this height, and if you go back farther than that, you know, in the agricultural revolution, they start to get shorter. The hunter-gatherers who had lots of exercise and a high protein diet with a better quality food than just eating, you know, corn or wheat or barley every day, they were taller than their ancestors were taller. So basically genetics gives you the blueprint and the environment figures out the rest. Now, we have this kind of movement going, this trend towards natural things, which is great because we, in creating things, human beings damage nature all the time. There are ways of working with nature and using nature's resources that don't cause a lot of damage. But frequently, that's not the way we do it because it's too slow, it's too expensive, it's too inconvenient, it requires too much time or energy, right? So we just do something the quickest way. Trees are a great example. You can cut down trees and you can keep a forest healthy and growing and still cut down trees and harvest them. That's called forestry. But in a lot of places, what they do is just they take a whole bunch of machines and they cut down every tree in the entire, you know, country. An area the size of, you know, Gyeonggi-do gets chopped down in Canada, and they just cut down every single tree. It takes 100 years for that forest to grow back, or sometimes it doesn't grow back. China has a huge problem with desertification because they cut down so many trees because they have so many people. It's necessary for various things, construction and fire, but they've removed so many trees that they've turned part of their country into desert that used to be forest. These are all things that are examples of how we abuse nature and how we need to protect nature and how nature is good. It keeps us healthy. But not all nature is good. This chapter is about when nature attacks. So why do people like this? Why do people say, I don't think anything that is natural can be bad for you? This is Gwyneth Paltrow. Excuse me, I have a cold, so I'm grunting a little bit. This is a classic example of a lack of critical thinking, right? There's lots of great examples of misunderstanding whether something is natural or not. You know, if I say, for example, I put some sodium bicarbonate in your food, you're probably going to think, well, unless you know what that means. But if you just listen to the sound of that word, you're going to say, oh my God, Jeremy put some sort of chemical in my food. It's going to poison me. No, sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. Baking soda goes in baked goods. It's in cookies and bread, and we use it to clean the kitchen, and it's safe for babies. You can eat a little bit of it. It's just a bunch of salt and carbons. Harmless. But as soon as somebody uses the chemical name, they're like, oh no, that's a chemical. That's not natural. But it is. Nature is chemicals. There are, of course, chemicals that are created by chemists, and there are poisons, but some of the poisons are natural, right? I don't think anything that is natural can be bad for you. Okay, Gwyneth, here's a king cobra. You give it a hug, and you see if it bites you and the venom goes in your body. Let's see if that hurts or if that's naturally painful or not. It's so easy to find an example. Are snakes unnatural? No, they're natural. And when they bite you and they put poison in you and you die, that's natural. When a tree falls on you and kills you, that's natural. She made this quote actually in even kind of less intelligent context. She was talking about the sun, I believe. This is like 2013, so this is not new news. But the problem is, she's a very famous woman. I hope you know who she is. She's an actress. She dated Brad Pitt before you were born. And she's, she plays Penny, I think her name is, the Iron Man's girlfriend, eventually fiance in the Marvel movies. Anyway, she's a famous actor, and she's pretty, and she seems nice and friendly, but she now is turned into a businesswoman, and she's promoting all these natural products, essential oils, and things, herbs and things like that, to keep you beautiful and healthy and young, and that it's really just a scam. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's not a scientist. She's not a nutritionist. She's not even a cosmetician. She's just an actress who's popular, promoting natural products, no matter what kind of products they are or where they come from. She was talking about the sun, right? How could she said something related to this? Like, I don't think the sun is bad for you. How could anything natural be bad for you? Well, Gwyneth, why don't we put you outside with no sunscreen for 10 hours in the middle of the day, and then we'll see how you look after 10 hours and see how much skin cancer you get. Some people say these things and you don't even react to them very strongly. This is a very dangerous thing to say. It's just Gwyneth talking on the TV, and I'm going to buy her products or whatever. No big deal. But it's actually a very dangerous thing for people to actually believe. Now people don't want to eat food because they're GMOs. But I'm sorry to say, all the food that is available, even the ones that are in those little shops that say 100% organic, those seeds are GMO seeds. You can't grow seeds from 7,000 years ago. None of those seeds that we have are the original seeds of anything. If you had non-GMO, real non-GMO, like we talked about this in the food chapter, if you really wanted that, you would have a very ugly looking banana, or you would have a very twisted, off-colored apple that wasn't sweet. None of those original fruits looked beautiful and tasted delicious the way you like them. If you want to have completely non-GMO stuff, you're going to have to deal with all the worms, all the diseases, the high price, and it's going to taste worse and it's going to look worse. Well, welcome to completely natural food. They're really just overcharging you. When you go to those little shops, say 100% organic, natural food, no chemicals, it's really not worth it, honestly. Your choice, but I think you're better off just trying to get some, good quality food for a decent price from any mart, and then making sure you wash your food carefully when you get home. All right, so nature is dangerous. There is a tension between nature and humans. There's tension between environment and genetics, and this is all interesting stuff to look at. We don't know most of how the universe works. We continue to discover and explore and research, investigate, and add to our knowledge. This is what Fiennes and this next guy too are doing. And they are the type of daredevil, adventurer, brave people that are so committed to their interest that they will risk their actual life and their health in order to succeed. So there are these people, believe it or not, in the United States. They're called storm chasers. And I usually show the trailer from the disaster movie Twister when I teach this class. So have a look if you want. It's on YouTube. Maybe I'll link it at the bottom of the video for you, so you can take a look. It's just a trailer, so it's 2.5 or 3 minutes long. You can watch the trailer for Twister. It's about storm chasers. If you want to watch the movie, it's a pretty typical 1990s disaster film. there's a whole bunch of them. There was one called Volcano. There was one called the Day After Tomorrow was Ice Age one. There's disaster movies. There's a typhoon ones. There's there's the Hyundai one, the Korean one, the tidal wave. Anyway, there was multiple tornado and storm ones, and this particular one is basically similar to this guy. There is an area, as I said, the United States does have the most tornadoes. It has the perfect environment. It's dry and hot and flat, and there's a lot of, atmospheric movement in that central plain area of the United States. So Kansas, the place where Dorothy is from, in Wizard of Oz, and her house flies up in the air and the tornado comes down in Oz. Kansas is in that area. South Dakota, North Dakota. There's an area called Tornado Alley. And this, basically these areas get hundreds of tornadoes every year. It is cheaper to buy a house there because there is a chance that you will lose your house from it. I mean, there's a possibility. It has to be calculated into the insurance. And if you do build a house there, you should have a storm cellar, a basement where you go under the ground and you kind of shut the door, and then the tornado goes by. You'd probably be unlucky to actually get your house picked up and ripped away, but it happens all the time, every year. So people prefer not to live in Tornado Alley, but it is a cheaper place to live. And so there are people that do. Now, in order to understand where these tornadoes come from, how they are formed, what we can do to limit them perhaps, and give early warning and predictions, we have to get information about them. And the best way to do that is to actually get devices into the tornado. So this is what they do in the movie. And this is what this guy, Tim, he was really interested in tornadoes his entire life. So he just wanted to find out how they worked. He was really interested in it. So they get these special cameras and they actually end up flying up into the tornado, and they pick up data as they fly around in it, so you can see how the tornado works. Probably now we might be able to send some drones in there or something, but he was doing this about 15 years ago when that wasn't possible. So Oklahoma is another one of those states. He gets special equipment to make measurements, and he went after 125 tornadoes, and he was famous. He went after an Oklahoma tornado in May 31st, 2013, when the tornado suddenly changed direction and it ran over his vehicle, and him and the whole group died. So I think about 10 people died instantly when this enormous, these guys love tornadoes, so they were very excited, and they got as close as they could, and they wanted to get their measurements and get their equipment close, and then the tornado changed direction right at them and killed them. So yeah, there's sort of a little legacy as a concluding statement there. Tim Samaras died that day, but his inventions and equipment continued to be used by scientists even after death. Tim's life's work continues to increase our understanding of how tornadoes work. Right. Nature, how can anything natural not be dangerous, Gwyneth? Like, think about it. Climb a mountain and then jump off it and see if nature is dangerous. Anyway, part of this class is you have to think about the words that you're using and what you're saying. Logic is a very important part of writing, okay? So when you're looking at your response paper before you hand it in, look at it carefully. I've seen lots of people make some comments, and if there's a contradiction, if one thing doesn't really match another, if this kind of statement does not make sense, if there are many examples that contradict your statement, then you're going to have to adjust it. Make it more specific, or change the language, or just remove it, or, you know, make a different argument, okay? You have to think about how everything's related. So make sure when you're talking about your person, these are the kind of things that are interesting though, when people say things and they make statements that represent them. You don't really have to say that somebody's stupid or they're smart or anything like that. You can choose things that they said and criticize that, okay? So when some students already asked, you know, when it comes to my amazing person, you know, what am I supposed to do exactly when I write about them? And I said, you know, you need to provide details of their life. Quotes are great, like things that they said or things that they did, right? And make your observation based on that, and make your judgment based on that. Basically, I've made a whole lecture connected to one thing that Gwyneth Paltrow said. I could write my paper about Gwyneth Paltrow and about her misunderstanding of what nature is and how it affects human beings. That would be good analysis. I would have to say some stuff at the beginning. Who she is, where she was, you know, how she grew up, and what her job was, you know, or is, and now she's getting into business, and she's an entrepreneur, and she's promoting these products. And then there's my quote, and then I discuss and do my analysis of what I think she represents and how she communicates ideas as a famous person. That's what you got to do. So good luck. That's your last assignment. There's no more homework after you finish your response paper. So next week I will do the exam review. And as I said, December 14th and 16th, we will have our finals in this building, in the humanities building. Okay, I will let you know the number and confirm your times on the cyber lecture on the CNU portal as soon as I can. Thank you for listening, and see you next week for the review.